Welcome replay viewers. This is kind of a catch up of the calligraphy marker for my 31 Days to Love Your Lettering, the evening edition of live demos. So thank you all for joining. If you have any questions, you can send me a Twitter or Facebook message. I'm CreativLEI on those places as well. Hello, ladies. All right, so I'm here and I'm on time and I'm here for my 9:30 group of Love Your Lettering March edition. And thank you guys so much. Hi, Jen. Hi, Elisa. Thank you so much for your patience the past few days. I certainly did not intend for there to be such a long break from my evening ladies. Because of course I love these scopes. These are our more chatty ones. You have no sound. Does anyone else not have sound? I don't know. The connection's been a little sketchy tonight. You've got it good, Janet? Okay. Okay. Maybe check your volume if you're not hearing sound. But. Okay. I know sometimes. Okay. We'll see you in a minute, Haley. Hi, Naomi. Hello. If you are new to one of my scopes and want to give me your first name so I can try to learn it, I'm a little slow at learning names, but I do try. Hi, Sherry. Thank you so much for sharing. Jen, was that right? Oh goodness, now I forgot already. Gabby's Paper Company. You're not Gabby though. I think you're Jen. Carol, it's nice to meet you. Janine. Okay. Hopefully you can hear me now. Jen, it is Jen. That's confusing because I want to say Gabby. Chris from the afternoon group. Hi. I'm glad that you're catching us now too. So for my 9:30 ladies, hi Melissa. We have missed meeting together on Monday night and Tuesday night, and we didn't even meet together Friday night because my little one was sick then too. So it's been kind of chaotic. So if nobody's in a rush to head out tonight, I will try and catch you up as much as I can in case you had some questions for the calligraphy pen. You just got yours today. That's awesome. Gabriel and Abigail equals Gabby. Oh, I'm assuming that those are your children, which that is awesome. You saw the planner, Mom Hop. You love seeing mine. Yeah, and it's a little underused right now because I will be the first to admit that when life is like completely chaotic, the last thing I want to do is open up a book that's screaming to me all the appointments that I may have missed or things like that. So you're thinking about starting the Love Your Lettering. Well, thank you. Are you Brandy? No, you'll have to let me know. And I believe you're here from Stacy. And thank you for joining us. So if you are brand new to Love Your Lettering, Brandy, good, I got it right. You can pick it up at any time. We are, of course, we're about 2.5 weeks in. But that doesn't mean you can't start where we are or go back and catch up. It's kind of the whole course is self-paced. It's just that this month I'm doing live demonstrations of what's already written on the blog so that if anybody needed some extra questions answered, hopefully that would help. And I'm going to try to do these live demos probably once a quarter. So the next time will be this summer. Okay, so with that said, let's get started. For those of you who may be new here, my name is Lisa. I blog at CreativLEI.com, which is looking at life creatively. We are currently about almost halfway through the 31 Days to Love Your Lettering. Weekends are for catch-up, so hopefully if you're just hopping in, then you will, oh, thank you. Yeah, it was a little full. It was like more than a little full, so I'm sure not everyone got to comment, and hopefully, I don't know, I didn't see much of the troll activity, but, yeah. So anyway, Brandy was just asking about the grid paper, and the reason why I recommend grid paper for starting off is that it's going to give you lots of guidelines that you don't have to draw in. So the square grid helps us get our spacing for the letters, and spacing between the letters. So that's why I prefer the grid. With the lines, you have, the horizontal guides, but then when it comes to letter spacing and getting those letters nice and open, you're kind of left to your own devices, and you will have more of a tendency to go with your natural handwriting than if you're looking at the grid and trying to make letters, hit that other line. Maybe I should go that way. So with that said, let's get started. I'll do a quick review of days 12 and 13 since we missed those together, and then today's topic in the afternoon group was getting started with the italic letters. So let's go. I'm going to flip the camera around so that you guys can see. Okay. So the first thing we did on Monday was to do some of the basic strokes with a calligraphy pen, because it's all about how you hold the pen, how you're going to get those thick and thin lines. So that was the stroke page. And then we did basic printing using a calligraphy pen, and we held it straight or parallel to the baseline and also at an angle. And the reason why we held it at an angle was to prepare for italic lettering, which is what we'll do today. So I'm going to go ahead and flip back, and I'm going to move to my blank paper to go through it all with you guys. So if you are new to this series and wondering, where can I get the information? CreativLEI.com/loveyourlettering. You'll be able to find all the information about the Love Your Lettering series, including the index post with all 31 days of links, both to instructions and suggested supplies and things. But don't let the supply list scare you. All you really need is some grid paper, which you can even print at home, and a favorite pen and or pencil. When we get into the fancy pens, including the calligraphy pen, all of that stuff can be done with whatever you have on hand, and I'll show you how to fix your pencils to make them work like a calligraphy pen. Are you ready for bed? Good night, bud. Just 1 minute. I'll see you in the morning.
Don't forget to wear green.
I know, I won't forget to wear green. Thank you. You can find me on Facebook /CreativLEI, and I'm on Twitter, Instagram, and Periscope @CreativLEI, and on Pinterest, I'm CreativLEI Made. I do have a lettering and penmanship board as well as a quotes and quips board. Thanks, Haley. It's bedtime now. Catch.me/CreativLEI. All right, so I'm going to flip to some clean paper. Yeah, he doesn't want, he'll probably pinch anyway. That's my 7-year-old. So he's our lovable guy. All right, so I'm going to go through the strokes real quick, and let's see. Okay, so there's 2 ways that we're going to hold the pen, and right now I'm just going to draw out a little thing over here to show you a sample of what I mean. Okay, so the 2 ways that we're going to hold the calligraphy pen, we're either going to hold it straight, and for those of you that might be here for the first time, I am left-handed, so I am teaching lettering from the left-handed perspective. I can try to show proper holding from the right hand side if you need. Just ask me if you want to see that as well. So holding the pen straight means that this flat nib, so you can see that's the broad side and that's the thin side. When I talk about holding the pen straight or using the broad nib as a straight pen, it means holding it parallel to the baseline, which is the bottom, or the bottom line that you write to. And so holding it straight, you're going to maintain that parallel position to the baseline. When I talk about a slant or an angle with a calligraphy pen, I'm referring to about a 45 to a 30 degree angle of the tip. So instead of being parallel to the baseline, I'm actually holding it at an angle. And since it's a marker, I can push the pen and it will still, the ink will run. And so you'll see that instead of being flush to the baseline, it's just got a point that's hitting it. So those are the 2 positions you want to keep in mind. You will not combine these 2 when you're doing the lettering. You'll either be using a straight pen or you'll be using it at an angle. Okay. Another thing to know about using a calligraphy pen is what size to write at. So the nibs will have different sizes. Right now I'm using the Pigma Calligrapher 30, which is like 3 millimeter. Okay, because that for me is easy for you to be able to see what the writing is done. It also comes in a 2 millimeter and a 1 millimeter, which the difference as you start to go smaller is harder to see with the thicks and thins as you're learning. But to be able to figure out what size the pen wants to write, what you do is create this little checkerboard of the width of the nib to create like a height chart. And so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these boxes becomes your X height, which is where your minuscule or lowercase letters are going to go. So they'll go between the baseline and the X height. So that's 5 boxes high. Now your cap height, where your capital letters would go, is 7 boxes. And then I do have an 8th one up here because when you have an ascending letter, like an L, an H, a B, a D, they will tend to go cross up above the cap line just a touch. So that's how you'll know which size to write in. So now since I'm using a square grid, I don't have to draw in those lines. Hi, Tina. I know, it's been way too long. On the square grid, I can see that 5 nibs high is actually right around 3 boxes. And to go 7 nibs high, it's about 4 boxes. So that's the size that I'm going to work in tonight. All right. So the first thing we do, going back to the basic steps, is we're going to do a downstroke. And I'm going to start first holding the pen at an angle, holding the nib at an angle. So it's about 45-ish degrees. Okay, and so the downstroke, I'm just going to pull the pen down towards my body. So the way where you're looking from the camera, the screen, it's actually directly in front of my eyes. So you're looking at the paper the way I am. I'm sitting right in front of it. So you can see I'm not twisting my hand at all. I'm pulling my hand towards my body. Okay. So that's our downstroke. The next way that we'll do the downstroke is going with a slight lead in. So it's about like a little bit up, which will be a thin line since I'm going with the angle of the pen, and then down. Okay, so I've got those. Now the next thing we'll do is a diagonal. And this is also, it's going to have a lead in and an exit stroke. So I'll have that thin line since again I'm going with the angle of the pen, then coming down and going up again. Getting used to the calligraphy pen does take some time. It's unlike our fine point or ballpoint pens where if that twists in your hand, you won't notice because you're working with the same point. Here, if you twist that hand, you're going to lose the definition between these thin strokes and those broad strokes. Okay, so now we're going to go diagonal with an exit. Again, not twisting my hand, not twisting my fingers, but moving my hand through the motion. Okay. And the upstroke on the diagonal is going to be thin because you're working in the direction of the angle of the pen. Yes, you certainly can. I don't remember exactly which page, which post has all the links to printable paper. Well, you can try printablepaper.com because I'm certain that they have graph paper on there, but they also have calligraphy guidelines as well. Okay, another stroke to do are curves. So first I'll do an overhand curve. So it's going to start in the direction of the angle. Oh, you're right, printablepaper.net. And you know what? I'm looking right at it. If you need that, that's printablepaper.net. And you should be able to find grid paper there, dot grid paper. You can find calligraphy guide sheets. They're all for free. Okay. So since I'm going overhand, I'm starting thin because I'm going with the angle of the pen. And then as I curve and come down, I'm coming down in the angle or opposite the angle with the broad side of the pen. Okay, and now underhand, it will be the inverse. I'll start broad and the exit will be thin. And the pen is not twisting. My hand is moving. The pen stays at the same angle. And some more curves are curved downstrokes. Here, let's go 3 down. Okay. Yes, except if you are right-handed, the pen position may change, but what you're trying to do is make sure that I'll just change the camera angle a little bit for you for my right-handed friends here. So you still want the pen nib, or the tip of the pen, to be about a 45-degree angle from your baseline. So here's your baseline, that's straight, and you're coming up, it's an angle to that baseline. Okay, so my right hand is not as steady as my left hand. Okay. So, but hopefully that's helpful for my right-handed friends. Okay. So, but it's still, I'm not twisting my fingers. I am bringing my hand down towards my body. Okay. So like I said, I am not right-handed, so my right hand is not steady. It's definitely not as smooth. Okay. And then the next one I'll do, while I have it in my right hand, I'll do that. We're going to go down in the opposite direction. Okay. And I'll do this with my left hand in just a minute. Okay. Alright, so for my left-handed friends, you're going to, and I'll go back over here. Okay, so again, whether it's in your left hand or your right hand, the trick is getting that nib where you want it. And you want it to be about 45 degrees from your baseline. So, except us lefties are pushing the pen and moving our hand towards us, but letting the pen kind of push the ink. So, you can see there's a slight difference, to be quite generous there, between my left and my right. Okay, so these were all with the tip at about 45 degrees, so that was slanted. So now I'm going to do similar strokes with the pen straight. So I'm going to do this one now. Okay, I'll just wait another minute if you needed a screenshot. Okay. Alright. So now we'll do some of the basic strokes with the straight pen. And now with the straight, I mean that nib, the broad side of the nib, is going to be parallel to whatever your baseline is. And again, so now I'm going to, let's see, I'll show it. I've got my hand now not quite hooked. It's not fully hooked, but I have brought it up so that I can be over the pen. If you are right-handed, you probably are going to want to go down because this would probably be really unnatural for you. So you may want to come below your work, and I'll do that later. I'll change the position of the camera for the right hand. Okay. So now I'm going to make a downstroke, and what it's going to do is start pretty much at the X height and come down to the base. And now you'll see that the bottom of that stroke is going to meet up with that baseline. Okay, so for my right hand friends, so you'll probably be most comfortable holding it below, and of course mine is going to be a little shaky. Yes, the earlier scope is on catch, so hopefully you can see this from the right hand. And I did not do any right hand demonstrations on the afternoon one. Okay. So my consistency is definitely off on the right hand. You'll see I don't have, good. So this pen is not. This is, when do you use this with calligraphy? If you wanted to do, I believe it's an Unchel, no, the Unchel letters. Let me pull out the trusty speedball book. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to flip through with you guys. Because there are specific alphabets that you'll want to hold it as a straight pen. Sorry, I don't have this bookmarked. And now I'm probably not going to find it either. There's pointed pen. Oh, here, Newland. There we go. Newland is a straight pen, but it's actually a little bit different because it's always the broad side. So Newland is one style. And here's like a flat brush. Also, this is the Speedball textbook. So, let me see if there were any other samples that use the broad brush. But sometimes it's just, that's another just way of like that's one of the things that I consider creative lettering, is when you take a basic principle of more formal lettering or calligraphy and just find a new flair to it, and that's how you start to define your own style. So now we're going to do a downstroke with an entry stroke. Sorry. Trying to like stay somewhat on task because I do want to get you guys kind of caught up on the demonstrations from my afternoon group, because you guys have had way too many days of I can't get back on tonight. So luckily my little one is preoccupied upstairs and doesn't need to be in my lap right now. Okay, now we're going to make a horizontal stroke. And these type of stroke drills can actually be turned into borders for your journaling, in your planner, in your Bible journals, journal Bibles. So they're just exercise of building consistency with your hand. Learning to get the consistent pressure and contact with the paper. Okay, so now we'll make a diagonal stroke. So now, since I'm holding the nib parallel to the baseline, when I make a diagonal, it's going to be a bit narrower than a straight downstroke would be. Okay. Are you going out to get green hairspray? Everyone's getting ready for St. Patty's Day tomorrow. Okay, so, let me do one of these right-handed, sorry, or a couple of them. So again, these are more shaky for me. So yeah, those of you that are right-handed will probably want to switch to holding the pen below your work instead of holding it this way, because what you're trying to do is get that nib parallel or flat to the baseline. Okay. The next one would be diagonal with the entry stroke. Okay. So someone this afternoon asked why everything is a downstroke, and that actually comes from working with the dip pen, because when you work with sorry, I told you these evening ones are more squirrely. When you work with the broad tip pen that's a dip calligraphy pen, you have to work down, because the way the reservoir holds the ink, it only will pull the ink when you're going in the down motion. When you go in the up motion, it causes it to splatter and scratch your paper. So even with the marker, although it does give me a little more freedom because the ink will flow whether I go up or down, I still maintain those practices. So they're like some of the few rules that I do follow. Okay. All right, so now the next one would be the upstroke again, but now with the nib flat to the baseline. It's not going to be super thin, but it is going to be thinner than that straight or the vertical downstroke. So, and again, so here's the, like, this would be a rule breaking stroke, because really it should come down. Kind of caught and corrected myself there, huh? So let's see, and now let's get some curves in there. So now the curves, when you enter into that stroke, it'll be thin, then broad, and thin again. Sometimes I need to stretch my fingers. Okay. Holding the nib straight to the baseline might feel unnatural, but I did want to be sure to show you this way. Just because, like I said, it's fun to try different styles for the creative lettering. Again, a little bit shaky on this side. Okay, and now you will do the converse curves too. So coming down in the opposite direction, but keeping that nib straight to the baseline. So I'll go back to my lefties. So we do seem to have a nice mix of lefties and righties. Okay, so there we have basic strokes with the pen straight. So this is, I think I'm trying really hard and I'm not breathing when I'm doing it. So if I just did it naturally, it would be all kinds of a mess. Okay, so there's our strokes. I'll flip back to the slanted ones as well. And then we'll move on to print. I told you, it's going to be like a marathon tonight. Okay, so we had our basic strokes with the pen at a 45-degree angle. So we get that varied thick and thin. And then we move to holding it straight or parallel to the baseline. And now we're going to do some printing. Whoops, sorry. That's what happens when I have the tripod in front of my face. I hit it. Okay, so we're going to do print with the calligraphy pen. So this was day 13 of the Love Your Lettering. Okay. So again, I'm working about 3 boxes high for my lowercase letters, and the ascenders are going about 4 or more. Okay. So let's start with an A, and I'm going to start with the straight pen, or the straight nib, or the nib straight to the baseline. I'm kind of choking on my words here. And I'm going to go out of alphabetical order. Let me show you what I've got here. Okay. Sorry. I'm going out of alphabetical order because I'm kind of doing the letters in families. So this first line is letters that begin with the bowl. Okay? So some of them have stems as well, or descenders, but your first stroke is going to be on the bowl. Okay. The next set of letters that we'll do is those that begin with the stem, which is that straight part. Okay, so we'll do those first, and then I think I need to switch the T and the U because the T is the stem. The F and the J kind of go in this one, but the F will actually start with that ascender part as a lead-in, and then we'll have all the other little rule breakers. Well, not rule breakers, but they don't follow the same pattern as these, but these are all somewhat related. So we'll be out of alphabetical order, and you'll have to shout out if you see a missing letter, because working out of alphabetical order sometimes is a little confusing. But hopefully I've got them all. Okay, so let's get the A. So I'm going to start with the bowl and come down, and then bring down my stem. My C. So, and I completely understand if you're not following right along, because this is certainly a lot of writing for one night. The reason why I've kept the lessons so short is to make sure that these were exercises that you could do each day. And see, I'm already messing myself up. Clean paper. Restart. All right, it's late, and I should have had another cup of coffee. So let's pay attention. Lisa. Okay, so here's my A. So I started on the bowl, come down in the stem. The C, the D. Okay, and if you find you've got jagged edges where your pen is coming off the paper, you can go back over that and smooth it out. The E is very much like the C, except you're going to add the crossbar. The G also begins with the bowl and comes down with the descender. So I'm breaking my own rules, I guess, because I am coming up on some of these strokes. If I were using a regular calligraphy pen, I would not be able to do that. So now we've got the O, which is 2 curves that meet. And we've got our Q, which will start like the G, except when we bring that descender down, we can either leave it straight or we can come back up like that, or you would be able to meet it that way. Okay, so this was with the pen straight. Now I'll do the next line with it at that 45-degree angle. So you'll start to notice slightly different shaping. I do need to, stretch my fingers. Like I said, this is a lot of writing for one session. But I really wanted to get you guys kind of caught up on the live instruction. Y'all have been so patient. The O. and Q. Okay. Now let's start with the letters that have, so you can see just slight differences where now this crossbar is coming at the diagonal because I'm making it meet or go at the same angle that the end of that curve is. Okay, let's go B, and again I'm going to switch back to, sorry, so this is not percent, degrees. Oh goodness, ladies, thank you for your grace, because I'm a bit, so the B should have been taller. Gotta remind myself of which ones I'm doing. Gosh. H. I. Oh, I've got an angle kind of sneaking in there. Okay. L. So now our M and N are going to be similar. We'll start with the stem. We'll come up and do that curve. Oh, you're so welcome. And the N was very similar. It's just the one, the stem, and then the arch and down. P. R. We'll stick the T in here. Okay, PRT. Alright, so now the ones that are just a little bit different, not following exactly the patterns of the other ones. The J I'm coming to now. So I've got my F and my J, which are pretty much just flips of each other. I'm not varying the pressure, at least not on purpose. With this type of pen, you're going to want to keep the pressure even on that tip so that you get that real broad line. Okay. Now the V, I'm going to do a diagonal and meet. W. And my pen may be getting a little dry. It's gotten a lot of use lately, and I'm leaving it uncapped, probably far too much. So my Y, you can taper it down or you can add that tail. I've got a Z. Oops, getting a little shaky there, huh? Okay, now my S, I'll start on that curve, come back down on the spine, and back up on the bottom. Okay. So now, so that was straight, and now at 45-degree angle, we're going to have just a little bit difference. So F. I forget the L or the I? I, L. They're just out of order. U. Ah, U goes here. You're right, because I moved it off this line. Okay, so the U, we're going to come in with a curve and then straight down with a stem. Okay, now back to the, oh yeah, autocorrect doesn't like me. So there's our F in the 45-degree angle. J, okay, I'm going to have to, oh, no, this was 45, Lisa. Goodness, I'm correcting myself when I don't need to be corrected. So, B. So if you start noticing that you've got too much of a dry nib, you might want to store it capped and upside down for a day to let that ink come back through. Okay, thank you. Green hairspray. All right. Is anyone else's child spray painting their hair tomorrow? this should be, yes, if I was going, like tonight, I will store this like this in a cup so that I let the ink come back down into the nib, because these aren't very old. I just got them in October, so they should still be flowing. Okay, so now the S, I'm going to start with the spine, come down and meet, and the U. Alright, so that is print with the calligraphy pen. Those are our lowercase letters. Do you guys want to see the, you're going to message me on Facebook later with a couple of questions about something. Yes, please do, Terry. I will try my best to answer. I did not do the 45-degree angle for these, but when I do italic, we'll cover that, okay? Is that straight? It's not 45%, Lisa. Okay, so let's see. Do you want me to go straight to italics, or would you like to see printed capital letters? You guys are troopers for sitting through all of this. All right, so italic. All right, let's go straight to italic. You guys can watch the replays on Catch if you would like to see printed capital letters, but I think italic is probably a little more important today. Okay, so now I do have the italic guide sheet printed from printablepaper.net, and I am going to slip this under my page. If your pages are taped together, which is something that I recommend, especially if you're using very juicy pens that might bleed through, but since this is strictly my practice pad for demonstration purposes, I don't have all my pages taped together. But if you've only taped the side, you should have your top and bottom open to slip a guide sheet in there. And they do have them both in landscape and portrait, so print out whichever one is good for your paper. Okay, so I've got, you can barely see the ghosting lines, the diagonal guides, and that's just to help you maintain the angle. Now, I will admit to you that this afternoon when I did this, I ended up not being very much at an angle for most of my letters. I was still going pretty straight up and down, but making the italic strokes. I'm currently using the Calligrapher 3mm. That's a Pigma calligrapher by Sakura, the same brand that makes the Pigma microns. Printablepaper.net. And there should be a link to that in the blog post for this portion. And I'm trying to look for my sticky note that's around. If you needed the link to all the lettering stuff, it's at creatively.com/loveyourlettering. And each of these, the posts are already up there, and there is a index of all the posts. Okay. So now we are back at a 45-degree angle. Italic calligraphy is done with the nib at a 45-degree angle. Okay, so I'm going to start with my A, and I will go in alphabetical order so that hopefully I don't miss the letters. But I can't make any promises because it's late. Okay, so I'm going to go down. I'm going to come up a little bit. Okay. May not be available for replay later. I just got a little ugly warning sign from my phone that this portion might not be on the replay. So I'm going to come at a curve from my ascender for the B. And I hear my little one waking up, which is not good. C. Now the D starts pretty much the same as the A and the C, except now I'm going to bring that ascender down. The E is going to start very similar to the rest of these, I am going to bring that entry stroke down just a little bit. You could certainly leave it up. It doesn't look right, does it? That looks better. So I think I'm mixing up my print and my italic. Okay, now my F is probably going to be more at the proper curve, because now I can see the guide. Oh, my bright light is making it harder to see it. So I'm going to curve that down and put the tittle over there. The tittle is that crossbar of the T and the F. For those of you that might be new to the series and haven't caught our lettering anatomy. So here's closer to the proper italic angle. I and J. Let's see, we can fit the K there too. So the K is going to come down, and I'm going to go up and down. Okay. Now L, I'm trying to make sure that I'm going to probably share that line with the descenders. So I've got my L. Now the M, you're going to come, the entry stroke would be here. So if you remember when we did the entry stroke into the downstroke. Okay, and now I'm going to bring that arch down. And on this one, I would do an exit stroke. So the N is just one less. We're taking out that middle one. Okay, our O, it's the two curves that are meeting. I'm going to go back over that since I had a jagged edge. The P, the Q, I'm going to again go back to the same or similar shape. There's two ways to do the Q that I'll show you. You can start similar to these other letters that were started with the bowl, and then you can bring that down. Or you can create your O shape. Sorry. And bring it down that way. So that's kind of personal preference and depending on what you want your the styling of your finished letter to look like. So now we've got our entry into that down and then the arch. Now my S, I'm going to start with the spine. I'll bring that top stroke down. Now I usually like to make my S drop below the baseline, but you can have it meet the baseline or you can have it go below. T. The ascending part of the T does not go quite as high as the rest of your ascenders. Having a hard time distinguishing between the italics and the 45-degree pen hold. It's because the italic is done at the 45-degree angle. The big difference is that we're having these exit strokes and entry strokes. And when I show you a word, that will be easier to see how it's different. So why not write the letters like I normally do? That would be the print then. Italic has these pretty entries and exits. Maybe that doesn't make sense. Sorry. I'll have to get you guys a better answer, a more official answer. The serifs, yeah. Except serifs are usually added on, where here with the italic letters, I'm not necessarily adding them on, but they're the exit of the other strokes. So you guys have given me some homework. I'm going to find that answer for tomorrow. How about that? That was a good. Your favorite style as a lefty? Yeah, I used to really love italic lettering until I started doing brush lettering. And I learned calligraphy just so that I could learn copperplate, which is the script. And then the copperplate led me to the brush calligraphy. My X. And the Y. And Z. Now Z you can do on the baseline. Could I not get it right by not picking up the pen? You may lose some of the change between the broad to that fine line if you don't lift the pen. They are calligraphy is made in strokes and not in like your full cursive writing. So especially like with the marker we can get away with not lifting the pen because the ink is going to flow regardless of whether we're going up or down. Where if you were to use a traditional calligraphy pen, it would not. You have to make the downstroke to get that ink to flow. So another way to make the lowercase z, okay, that's kind of your cursive styling. All right, so there's our lowercase letters. Sorry, a little bit shaky there. Let's do some capital letters or majuscules, uppercase. Okay, so now the A is kind of an upside down V at first. I think I went too many boxes. Okay. So this A, let's see, I'm gonna white that out because I don't want to go all the way down there. There. Pretend I actually met the line. So, and then I would put that there and bring the crossbar. And you could add a bit of flourish like that. The B is going to start with the stem. So, and part of the reason why it's probably not easy to distinguish between my print and my italic right now is because I am not going at the full angle. These letters right here are more precisely italic, where they're more on that slope, where a lot of my letters I'm too close to the parallel of printing, kind of like that handwriting without tears writing, which is not very pretty all the time. So yeah, I think that's probably what's making it hard to distinguish between the styles. So that would be my bad. C. Let's see if I can get closer to the italic angle. Getting a little bit closer to the proper angle now. Or slope, I should say slope, because when I refer to the angle, I'm talking about the angle of the tip of the pen. The angle at which you're writing at is actually called the slope or the slant. G. H. too soon. Okay. L. There's a couple of different ways to do the M. So first would be to start it kind of like the A. Now I could add that flourish there. Sorry, trying to decide which M I'm doing. Let's see. The M is not always easy for me, as you can probably see. That's much better. Okay. So the N. O. It's going to be very similar to the lowercase. The P. The Q. Okay. I mean R. Okay. R. Again, the S. I'm going to start with that spine. Come there and meet up with that one. T. And our U. Thank you. I know this one went really long. I'm almost done with the capital letters, and then I'm just going to write a couple of words to show what we do with these exit strokes. Okay. W. The X. You're so welcome. The Y can be done a couple of different ways. We can bring it like that, or we can do it in the style of like the curve of the U. And I do like to let that tail descend on the capital as well. And then our Z, and you can cross that there too. Okay, so there's an uppercase and lowercase italic. And then I just wanted to give you, show you some words. Sorry, I'm flipping too fast, aren't I? I know, I've kept you guys so long. You guys rock. Your patience is absolutely amazing. So let's just write a couple of short words just to see. Okay, so I'll write italic. Okay, so the big thing with italic is that you have these entry strokes and exit strokes. And the reasoning is sometimes these letters are going to meet. So it almost ends up looking like the cursive, but it's really not. It's a series of different strokes. Okay. But now you wouldn't force connections. So let's write here. I'm going to write cursive, and you'll see that it's not. It's actually different letters. So it's all the different strokes. C. Oops, my pen lifted up a little bit. So now my R, I'm not going to add an exit there because that's not the end of the letter. I've got to make the